Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Not Aspirational. I'm your host, HannahAaronBrown, and today I'm really excited because today I am joined by Sydney René Cox. She is an LA-based actor, writer, and intimacy coordinator from Chicago. You can find her work on Substack and The Every Girl. She's currently creating boundary workshops to help people learn how to protect their energy, communicate confidently, and feel good about taking up space and making boundaries, which I'm super excited to talk about today. Sydney, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so hyped to have you here. And as like a chronic people pleaser myself, when we got in touch, I was like, me and my listeners need you because making boundaries is like the scariest thing in the world.
It is. It 100% is. No matter how long you've been doing it.
Okay. And see, I'm like, we're going to get into that.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, can you tell my listeners a little bit about yourself and then how you got into this work?
Yeah, for sure. So, so I have an acting degree.
Hell yeah. Same.
Yeah, absolutely. And see, friendship already. I have a lot to like thank acting school for, but I didn't really like enjoy the process of acting school, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd always gravitated towards the arts, and I knew from a really young age I wanted to be an actor and be involved. But then when I started in school and started working professionally, I not only experienced that deep need for intimacy professionals myself, but I heard about the experiences and I saw things happen to my peers and to my friends. And it was just something you didn't talk about. It was just like, oh, well, there's a simulated scene, so do it.
Yeah.
And then you would. And I literally would like pray before they would assign scenes, like the night before, that I wouldn't get one that had any sort of like intimate connotation in it. And was like, there's got to be like a better way for this. And then I graduated into the pandemic, and that was fun. And then those conversations kind of started swirling about, will the industry even come back, like entertainment? And then if it does, I kept thinking, well, I want to be part of making this better and reshaping this because clearly something's not working.
Yeah.
So I started taking classes in 2020 and the rest was history.
That is so sick. I will say, harkening back to what you were saying about acting school, I feel like this is so applicable to like any industry, but I will say, like, as someone who also has an acting degree, lucrative, let's go.
Hey.
I feel like we're taught in college, like I went to college back in like 2009 to 2013, and we were taught like you want to be easy to work with, you don't want to be drama, you don't want to create problems on set. And so like advocating for yourself became synonymous with being, quote, difficult or like challenging to work with. And when you're out of college, you're so like hungry and like excited to get into the professional industry, and you just want those opportunities so badly that you're willing to put your comfort to the side and or like gaslight yourself into being like, well, maybe I am difficult. Maybe I'm asking too much for wanting to feel safe during a simulated sex scene or a kissing scene or anything the slightest bit physical. It doesn't really matter what it is, even during like a fight scene, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like so much of the work we do just in general, no matter what you do, if you're in any sort of creative field, is so vulnerable. And, you know, people think that intimacy only means if there is like a sex scene or if it's a fight scene, but it's truly like anything that leverages any part of your identity, whether that's your race or your sexuality, your religion, anything is intimate. Basically, the rule of thumb I always use is if you think it's intimate, then it's intimacy.
Oh, that's so fascinating. So has there been, because I've always like related the idea of like we need an intimacy coordinator for like physical scenes. Is there any time that you've been called in to do intimacy coordinating work where it hasn't been physical and it's been more like helping actors feel comfortable navigating like certain conversations or dialogue within a script or something like that?
Absolutely. I'm actually working on Rent right now. Yeah. And there is like a lot of obviously physical contact in it, but then there's a lot of like cultural competency
Mm-hmm.
that folks just now maybe not be privy to, as far
Mm-hmm.
as, what was happening in this time to these group of people that we're portraying. There's like use of slurs
Mm-hmm.
for queer people. And so I've frequently called in to even just do workshops with groups of people about how do we figure out how to gain the cultural competency around the world and the characters we're portraying. And
Right.
then how do we feel comfortable living and embodying this world when it's not something that like Sydney would do, not something I
Totally.
would ever say. And so that's been interesting.
That is interesting because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
especially in this climate that we're in right now, like things are so charged politically. Things have become political that aren't and shouldn't be, but like you need the quote like bad guys in my terms to tell these stories because they should be told to bring these stories to the forefront and let marginalized groups of people be heard like through art and theater, but also making it a safe space for people in those marginalized communities within the cast to feel safe telling that story and exploring that with their peers who are in those roles of like the people who say slurs and the people that voted in a way that I don't like. Anyway,
Agreed.
yeah.
Well, and kind of on that note, I do like always like telling people to, the work itself, like as intimacy coordinator, is not new.
Mm-hmm.
The work of boundaries, consent, and creative spaces, it's existed in so many forms under so many different names. And the only thing that is new is like the recognition of the work in a professional technical skill set, really
Right.
by Western white dominant institutions. So, artists and particularly women, queer folks have been, and people of color have been negotiating consent and care in rehearsal rooms since the dawn of time, and often very informally and often without any kind of credit. So,
Mm,
with the rise of intimacy coordination and the popularity it's gaining, I think it's phenomenal. But I also think that we often leave out, exactly what you're talking about. Like, this work exists because people from marginalized communities had to protect each other
right.
and themselves. And now there's just a protocol around it.
Right. Thank God.
Yeah, thank
Um,
God.
has making boundaries and protecting your energy also shown up in your writing career? And if so, like how?
Yeah, totally.
Ooh.
So I write a lot about sex for the Every
Mm.
Girl. My beat is sex and relationships.
Okay, Carrie Bradshaw, pop off.
I know a little bit. I always feel a little bit Carrie Bradshaw. Sometimes
Oh
I
yeah.
do watch Sex in the City while I write.
Oh,
Um,
chic.
it's fun, living in the city. I feel anyway that
Yeah.
energy. But yeah, and then on my personal blog, I write a lot about mental health and artistry, and so it's all pretty sensitive, whether you're talking about like oral sex or mood disorders, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And for a really long time, it was really hard knowing that family and friends were going to read things that maybe I wasn't
Totally.
ready for them to read, or like see me in a light that I didn't want them to see me in.
Yeah.
And I'd immediately be like, oh, my mom's best friend is going to comment on this on Facebook. And, it's going to be a whole thing.
Yeah.
But learning to set boundaries kind of around not just what I share, but like who I'm writing for has been
Mm.
a game changer. I don't write articles about sex and think about my family. I write it for the little girls who grew up in Indiana like me who didn't have sex education.
Totally.
And so that's part of it. And then I also just choose what I share and what I don't share because nobody is owed access to your most intimate moments or thoughts. And I also don't write for free anymore, which is a big one.
Okay, I love that. So your shit's behind a paywall?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Hell
At
yeah.
least for the people who were paying me to write them.
I
Mm-hmm.
love that. Yeah, I, as someone who has a bit of a herstory in blogging as well, I like, there have been like family events where I've had a family member make like a passive aggressive joke about like something quote slutty that I wrote on the internet. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry that you're my like 60-year-old uncle. You're not my demographic. You sought out my shit. Like, it's not my fucking
You read
problem.
it. You clicked on it.
Yeah, it's
That's
like, you think I'm writing for you? You? I'm writing for the girlies. Like, get out of
exactly.
here. And then it's like, it is hard because I feel like the conversations around sexuality are, well, I mean, we're in a scary time where it does feel like in some ways we're regressing, but I
Yeah.
feel like growing up, like in the Midwest, I grew up in the like 90s, there was so much internalized shame around sexuality and being open about it. And then when I was like in my 20s, it was like I saw comics like Amy Schumer and Chelsea Handler and people who were like kind of reclaiming their power through like joking about how fucking crazy it is to be like
Yeah.
a woman and a sexual being and just like being able to talk about it openly. And so I, as a writer, and the Carrie Bradshaws of the world, like I, as a writer, was like, I want to do that too. And a lot of people, they got fucking something to say.
Yeah. I mean, and how else do you move forward without
Hmm.
sharing and without talking about it? So
Yeah.
I've always found that really interesting. And that's been, yeah, a huge place where setting boundaries kind of internally, a boundary
Yeah.
between what I can care about and the responses I can care about has been huge
Yeah.
writing wise.
Can you think, was it a conscious, like, can you think of a time where it was a conscious effort where, like, maybe like you were feeling some sort of sensitivity around something you were sharing as a writer, like, come up, and then you consciously made the choice to be like, I'm going to make a boundary around this and I'm going to choose to not internalize this feedback I'm getting? Or was it sort of like a gradual over time thing as you started, like, doing this kind of work?
Yeah, there's two main ones actually that come to mind when I think about writing specifically. Yeah. Um, the first time I ever was asked to write a personal piece about my own sex life
Mm-hmm.
for the Evergirl, I initially submitted it to them and told them to make it anonymous because that's an option you have where you can
Mm-hmm.
submit and say, you can publish this and you can pay me, but just write like the Evergirl team as the attribution.
Mm-hmm.
And they posted it online and I read it. And it was about, so I got a breast reduction. We don't have to get
Mm-hmm.
all the way into it, but it was about how getting
Slay.
a breast, best decision of my life. But it was all about how getting a breast reduction totally changed my life and changed my sex life and just changed everything.
Yeah.
And I submitted it, they published it, and I was like, oh, but like, that's my story. And I cannot care what people will have to say about it. So then I emailed them back and they put my name back on it. And that was it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And then similar for like my own Substack, where I've been writing it for free for a long time and I finally just put up a paywall. And you always get like those thoughts of like, oh, well, people are going to think, who does she think she is? I'm like, well, they can choose to pay for it or they can choose to not. But that's not my responsibility or
Yeah.
like, I don't need to care about that because if they don't want to pay for it, they don't have to.
Totally.
Yeah.
Damn, that's powerful. I love that. And especially, yeah, I think when you are using yourself as the subject matter of your own writing, it does sort of open you up to like a new. I just feel like it makes you need to protect your energy a little bit more because it's like you could say I'm a shitty writer, but what's harder is someone saying you're a shitty writer and also you're a shitty person and I don't like you or agree with your lived experience that clearly you care enough about to write this thing. Like that's a lot for someone to take on. Especially as a creative,
Yeah.
we're mushy
You're
people.
feeling it all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
Um, so what was the first step in finding the tools to like take up space and make boundaries in your own life?
Honestly, I think just believing that I deserved to take up the space and
Yeah.
deserved to have boundaries. Um, and I know a lot of people that I've talked to in my workshops used to think that having boundaries was only for people who had something very specific to protect.
Mm.
And I just never thought I was important enough to take up that kind of space or like, well, there's nothing like I need to protect. But yeah, I think it really started with deciding I was worthy of care. And then
Yeah.
everything else and the language and the tools, the practices, those all came way after the fact.
Totally. I also think the cool thing about boundary making, because I'm a recovering people pleaser, I'm like in recovery now. I feel like it's really scary and hard a lot of the time. But I think the thing about boundaries too is it's like, I think I've had a dialogue with myself before where it's like, does that mean that I like, yeah, kind of to piggyback off what you were saying, like, does that mean that I see myself as this like precious little angel baby that needs to be coddled all the time? And I actually think it's the opposite, where it's like, you're saying, I don't need anyone to coddle me. I just care enough about myself to know that like this is this is how I feel safe or this is how I feel comfortable. And it's I'm not making it anyone else's problem. I'm actually advocating for myself and making the mature decision to say I will or I will not do this, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Fucking
Did you
hard.
know? Oh, it's so hard. And this blew my mind when I found this out. But we call it people pleasing in like social circles. Do you know it's called fawning?
Get out.
So we know like the three survival states that mostly are talked about being fight, flight, or freeze. But there's a fourth one, and it's called fawning. And it's like a nervous system response. And it's another way that your autonomic nervous system responds to stress or trauma or a kind of threat. And it is defined as taking care of others by suppressing your own emotions, needs, or identity in the process.
Fuck.
And it is a trauma response. And it's also expected social behavior in like all of our Western cultures and ideals, because we're conditioned to perform this pro-social behavior in any social setting. Any standard of professionalism at the workplace requires fawning. It truly becomes an integral part of survival. And so people pleasers typically, I'm not diagnosing anybody, but the state that they fall into, their survival state, is fawning. But I always tell people survival is not consent. Mm-hmm. And if you are saying yes to something or agreeing to something just to get through it, that is your nervous system reacting to trauma and threats. And then we are like, oh, I'm just a people pleaser. And it's like, you're having an actual bodily response.
Damn. Yeah, I actually just had a friend tell me that her therapist told her about this acronym called FOG, where it's like if you agree to something out of fear, obligation, or guilt, that's not actually you wanting to do it. That is, to your point, like some sort of trauma response of like, I guess I have to do this, otherwise I'm in trouble or I'm unsafe or I'm at risk of being abandoned. Yeah.
Even if it's just a friend. Like even if somebody says, hey, let's get coffee, and you spend like the next 6 hours after you agree figuring out how you're going to get out of it. Like, exactly. Even if it's something as seemingly small as, oh, my friend's going to be mad at me, your body doesn't know that. All your body knows is that it kicks in. So that's brilliant.
Oh,
FOG. I love that. I don't, but I love the acronym.
I know it was an unlock for me as well. Sorry, I know I'm jumping around with my questions here.
No, you're fine.
But this seems like such a good segue. So like, how does that sort of like panic in our nervous system, how does it show up in our bodies?
Yeah. So it kind of can be different for everybody a little bit. But typically that panic, we feel it before we know it, right? So the body knows before the mind can catch up. Mm-hmm. And that energy, that panic energy doesn't disappear. Everything's so somatic. So it can feel like tightness in the chest or tension in the jaw, a pit in the stomach, or this is really specific. But do you ever have that feeling of somebody's like literally pulling a rug out from under you and things get dizzy? You could get the cold sweats.
Yeah.
That's a huge one, with fawning, because you're not brought to a place of inaction, but any action you take from there is just a reaction to what's happening in the body.
Fuck. I've experienced all of those. Have you ever been in a friendship where, this is the analogy I make because I've had friendships like this, where you feel like you're like sitting at a desk in an office and they're just constantly dropping heavy files on your desk one after the other of like things you have to do for them or like ways in which you have to perform within the friendship. And you're just like, I can never get caught up on quote, all my work because it will never be enough for this person.
Oh, 100%.
It's really scary.
100%. It's so scary. It's so hard. And it's because you want to.
Yeah.
Like you want to be close to that person. But yeah, no, I've had a few of those friendships come to mind. I always know it's bad when I have to like hide the alerts.
Yes. That's hard too. When people are like, I choose you, Pikachu, you're my best friend. And you're like, I don't think I consented to being your best friend. And or like, I'm not certain I even earned that role in your life, but you just like placed all these best friend expectations on me. And now I feel like an asshole if I don't rise to the occasion. But it's like, I didn't ask for this, that I can't do this.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes. And then you end up feeling, because of your fawning or people pleasing tendencies, feeling like you are the bad guy for not rising to the occasion. Like, oh, I fucking suck.
Totally.
Oh,
I'm a monster.
Yeah, I'm a terrible friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also, sorry, I'm going on a bit of a tangent. I like relatively recently had a friendship like crash and burn over this, but it was like for the best. I think it was like I was never going to be able to give this person what they needed. I was in this heightened state a lot of the time and I was really overwhelmed and I felt all those physical symptoms like often.
Mm.
And I always kind of felt like if I tried to make a boundary, like it would be a problem. And then when I finally did, it like was enough of a problem that like I got blocked on everything and like it was like friendship over.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a lot. But that being said, it's hard when someone presents as very just like quote like nice on paper, where it's like, well, this person's nice. Like they're nice to me. So I owe them everything they want from me. And it's like, actually, you fucking don't. Like it's
hmm.
not, and honestly, I think being nice on a surface level can be a manipulation tactic where it's like, well, what are you talking about? I'm so nice to you. Or like, I walked your dog that one time. Like, there's all this like scorekeeping and bullshit. And
Oh,
it's like,
yeah.
that's on them. Like, you don't owe somebody your whole, every drop of your energy and time just because they decided to be nice or to like get you a gift for no fucking reason.
Oh, absolutely. And that's such a hard thing to come to terms with.
It is.
Honestly, when I look back at like my college years, I think I had a little bit of that because I
Mm,
felt like if I just was nice to everybody,
same.
then nobody could have a problem with me.
Yes. Oh,
And then I was safe, in this. But in doing that, you also lay down so much of your own like trauma for the world to see and pick up. And that's not their responsibility either.
right.
Which, but yeah, I've also been in friendships where that has been a huge thing. And I've also had a few friendships crash and burn over that, especially as I've started to, like you said, reclaim some of that. Oh, wait a second, I actually don't owe you that.
Yeah. Wait. Okay. That's one of my questions too is like, you, when you start making boundaries and advocating for yourself, it's easy to find yourself in a situation where people who you trust or who you're close with, who you feel safe with, it's easy to see them flip on you and be like, what the fuck is this? Because like they're used to a dynamic where you're going to kind of roll over and do whatever they want to do. And then when you make that switch, instead of being like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you to see you standing up for yourself, they're like, I'm not getting my normal supply of attention or time or favors from you anymore, and I don't fucking like it. Have you experienced that? And
Mhm.
if so, like, how do you handle it?
Yeah. So definitely. And you would always want to believe, right? Like I get how much it sucks because you always want to believe that the people who love you the most and care about you the most would respect you setting a boundary. But
Hmm.
oftentimes, they're the people who take it the hardest. And we have this is a lot easier to hear and than it is to internalize. And I hear me say that before I keep talking. But the thing about setting a boundary is that it isn't about controlling someone else's behavior. It's
Mm,
not personal. People take boundaries as being rejections. Why won't you do this for me? Why don't you care about how I feel? But truly, a boundary is just an invitation to where you two can meet on healthy common ground.
hmm.
And because we all equate the word no to being negative, or I won't do that, or I can't do that, I don't have the capacity, or I would prefer if we did it this way, we really take any sort of change in plan or negotiation as being negative when inherently it's really positive.
Yeah.
Because if somebody didn't care or didn't want to find a common ground, they wouldn't meet you where you were at. They wouldn't try. And I think that's the biggest thing where I'd love to sit here and say, that won't happen. People will respect you. They won't always. And if even after that, if they keep pushing, you don't owe them explaining because, no is a complete sentence. But you do owe yourself the follow through. So that could look like leaving the conversation, stepping back from the relationship, creating more distance. And it's also a moment of clarity, which is really shitty. But if someone is consistently ignoring your boundaries, they're showing you that they are not safe. And that
Yeah.
is not your fault. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah. I know it is wild because it's like, I feel like we've both experienced that when we were just talking about it, where someone's gotten pissed at us for trying to make boundaries. But it's like, I mean, obviously being rejected feels horrible, but like, I like to think I'm at a point with my own healing. Like, I've gone to enough therapy where if someone's like, I don't feel like doing that today, where I wouldn't be like, wow, I guess you hate me. Wow, I really thought we were friends, but you don't want to get a drink with me right now. So fuck you. Like, it's like,
Right.
Like I have like tentative plans with a friend tomorrow and she's traveling today and I was like, let's shoot for this, but if you get really tired after traveling and we have to reschedule, like that's fine. Like just making it a
Hmm.
safe space for your friends to obviously not like flake on you 100% of the time, but to like make it a fluid conversation around like what you can or can't handle on any given day, you know?
Yes. Yes. And it'll always, be a better dynamic between you and your friend or you and, your romantic relationship or your family
Hmm.
if that care goes both ways. And
Hmm.
sometimes it just doesn't.
Yeah. Damn. Um, Next question. So, like, centering ourselves as women specifically, I mean, obviously it's a human experience, but centering ourselves as women and taking up space in this particular climate can be really scary and really challenging, whether you're like at the doctor, in the workplace,
Mm.
with your family, in a relationship with friends or romantic partners. How can we as women like feel solid and safe in that? Which I know is a pretty broad question, but like any tips, any tricks, any thoughts?
Yeah. You know, in our with everything going on in our current climate, I wish I had an answer that I could prepackage and give to everybody that
Yeah.
would work 100% of the time. And I think the first step in feeling safe, especially as a woman, is knowing how to anchor yourself in your physical body, in the space
Mhm.
around you. Um, so when you are in a situation where you feel like your boundaries are being compromised, whether that is, at work or at the doctor, because oh my God, do I have stories about that? But
Ugh.
your brain is disassociating and you're bracing for impact, and you really cannot take in what's happening in the world around you. And so the first thing I would always say is to truly come back to your body. So breathe, feel your feet on the ground, really like drop your shoulders and take a second to check in with yourself, because you can't make any sort of decision in that panicked state. You have to get out of it to be able to see clearly.
Oh.
Um, and that's so, so hard. And then start small, because a boundary doesn't have to be, you don't have to like walk right into your scariest relationship dynamic or walk right into the doctor who's performing your surgery and be like, you will not talk to me this way, or like,
Right.
I need you to do this. You can get there, but it can truly start with like a friend asking you, like I said earlier, to get coffee and you saying, hey, this day is not good for me. Let's look at other days.
Hmm.
Or at work, if you can't get a project finished on time, on your deadline, sitting down with your manager and saying, hey, we need to figure out another way to reprioritize this. It can start really small, and it can also start
Hmm.
with yourself. Um, Letting yourself take a day off from the gym, or making yourself go, on the other hand,
Hmm.
and I wish I could say this is exactly the math equation to feel safe, but you have to feel safe in yourself, and before you can feel safe communicating those boundaries to anybody else.
That's such a great point. I also feel like I've talked to my husband about this a lot too. Like he's said like as I've navigated all of this, he said things like, you know, you don't always have to communicate a boundary like verbally. Like, you don't always have to send a text message and be like, I'm taking space from you. You are really overwhelming me right now. And instead, to your point, kind of like leading with behavior and just being like, oh, like, can't do that. I'll circle back when my schedule gets a little less crazy, you know. Sorry for using corporate jargon in my friendships, but I do that. But you know, it's
I
like
do too. It's okay.
it's because it's like a polite way to communicate. I don't know.
Oh
Sometimes I feel
yeah.
like at this stage in my healing, at least, I have to be kind of clinical in how I make boundaries and like reject people because when your instinct is to over explain and be like, well, I actually have to do this and I feel like especially as
Yeah.
women, it's such an easy trap to fall into.
Oh, 100%. No, I totally get that. And like, if that's what works for you, then that's what works for you.
Yeah.
But it is such an easy trap to fall into of, for example, if I'm working on a show and somebody says, can I touch your neck? And I don't want someone to touch my neck. It's so easy to be like, well, I see it. This thing happened to me when I was blah, blah, blah. And I don't want it's simply no, that
Yeah.
let's do this instead. And that's so hard
That
because
is.
you want to caretake. You want to take care of the people that you are rejecting. But it's like it's worth reframing in our brains a little bit of I'm not rejecting them, I'm inviting them into a new dynamic.
Totally. No, I love that. I love that flip. Yeah, I feel like it's so it can be hard to make boundaries too because you're like, I don't want to if you've ever felt rejected in your life or like left out or on the outside of something, at least for me, it's like I never want to make someone feel that way because I have so much trauma around like feeling left out or feeling
Mm-hmm.
rejected or feeling like I'm like bad or othered. So you're like, well, if they take this as a rejection, I don't like if I say you can't touch my neck in the middle of a rehearsal in front of people, is this person gonna be like, oh my God, they embarrassed me in front of the whole cast? And now that you know what I mean? Like it's easy to get
Right.
into that spiral, even though it's completely valid that you don't want someone to touch you in a certain place or whatever the boundary is.
Mm-hmm. We it's so funny. We use so you do comedy. You do
Hmm.
comedy.
Hmm.
Um so I have a game that I play in workshops that's based off of yes and, but it's no but. And it's like
Obsessed.
teaching it's so fun. It's so silly, but it always like is really impactful because it's that exactly of sometimes just saying no, even though that's all you need to say, you do get scared of how people are going to receive that. But maybe instead of just saying no, you can also reframe as a no, I won't do this, but what if we did this?
Love
Or
that.
no, this doesn't work for me, but this does. And then what that does, and that works if that's in choreography for a show, or that works if you're making plans with a friend or talking about the holidays with family, saying, no, what you proposed, I'm not cool with. That's not jiving in my body, but
Hmm.
this would. And then what that does is allows them the opportunity to agree to your boundary or to re explain what their boundary is on top of your boundary. So that's like how that dialogue can start.
I love that. Okay, quick question too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, sorry to harp on this, but when it comes
No,
to
I
like
can.
okay, so you were talking about like how you have to feel safe within yourself in order to like start communicating boundaries to feel safe in other areas of your life. If you have like a relationship in your life, whether it's a family member or a friendship where they really want you to be part of their life and you've decided like this is not a safe person for me, I cannot do
Mm.
this anymore and they don't seem to understand that. Do you have any tips on like how to make it basically how to tell people to like fuck off out of your life in like a respectful, boundary driven, self-care driven sort of way?
Yeah. Um, that's a really good question. And that's such a shitty place to be in and to feel that responsibility um, on you or whoever is in that situation. And it's not easy. It's not a fun thing to do. Um, and in a situation like that where you have tried to, lead with action or have just decided this is you've crossed a boundary one too many times. Like
Hmm.
I can't do this anymore. That's where that conversation does become a lot more clinical and does become a lot more final in the
Hmm.
sense of where I am at right now. I do not have the capacity to be for you what you need, nor do I feel like I should be expected to be that. And
Hmm.
because of that, I need some space. And I think that is a situation where, like you said, your husband saying, you don't need to text them all the time. I think that's a situation where, like, yeah, having it more formally in writing, letting them know where you're at so that there's no risk of miscommunication there
Right.
is probably ideal.
Right.
But it sucks.
It
And I
sucks.
would never say, like, it's fine. Just like
Yeah.
tell them to fuck off. No, I mean, obviously be respectful about it, but make sure that you have things set up for yourself after that, whether that's a little ritual you have of going on a walk or the way you make your tea or like the specific way you take your showers. Make sure that if you are going to draw a hard line in the sand like that with somebody, that you have the tools set up for you to come back to yourself because you will inevitably spiral out of that.
Oh, that's such a good point. Being realistic about what those conversations actually do to us when we have to have them, no matter how prepared you are for it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
dang.
you can go through every single version of the conversation in your head that you can come up with and it still
Hmm.
won't be
Hmm.
what you expect.
Also, I love the way you worded it because it there was a finality to it. Because I feel like in the past I've tried to have those conversations, but then I've almost like undercut what I've said by being like, but I'm going to take this much time away and then I'll get back to you in X amount of time. And you're kind of like, even then it's like, but I didn't actually mean that. I really do just want space, period. And I don't want to make a promise to come back to this person. I want to make it a safe space to maybe never come back to this person. And like, that's okay. But I think being firm in the way you say it and not making false promises because you're afraid of someone being mad at you is like really important.
Yes. And the hardest part, because, people's relationships do go through, um, we are all evolving on different wavelengths. And there could be a time where you do find yourself in a situation where being close with that person again is possible. And then it's very likely that that will never happen. So yeah, resisting the urge to apologize for your boundary is key.
Yeah, I once was asking a friend advice on a friendship that I was having a hard time navigating, and she was like, well, if you had a conversation with this person and it went well, would you feel a sense of relief, or would you feel like, oh, fuck, here we go again. Like I'm right back where I was at the beginning of this conversation and I'm still overwhelmed. You know what I mean?
Waiting for the light to turn red again.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, dang.
Wow. That's been there.
And then you feel shitty for being like, honestly, I just want out. Like I want out and I don't know what to tell you. I want to get off the ride.
I wish you were mad. I wish you were screaming. Yeah,
exactly. Is there anything else you want to cover that we have not naturally touched on?
Yeah, I think something I would love to chat about is, okay, are you a Brené Brown fan?
Love.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely love Brené. I found her like TED Talk on vulnerability, I think when I was, I don't know, maybe early high school. And I was trying to show everybody that I possibly could, like in the hallways of high school. I was not a cool kid.
No, I was going to say, you're the coolest high schooler I know.
Well, maybe now, but not at the time. There's a quote that she says that I talk about in all my workshops, which is daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. And it just hits so hard every time. But she has like a 3-step way that she centers herself and like starts to set boundaries. And I kind of just want to share that in case it resonates, because I think about it all the time. So make a mantra. So she talks about needing something to like literally hold on to during those awkward moments where there's like an ask in the air that you don't want to agree to. So for her, she bought a silver ring and that she like spins while repeating, choose discomfort over resentment. And I wear this every day. It's an Aura ring.
Oh, love.
So it works. Love Aura rings. But I always tell my actors that I work with to have something physical with you, whether you're like in your real life as yourself, if you're Hannah and you're walking down the street, have something on you or around you that can ground you and center you. So whether that's like a ring, a piece of jewelry, a grounding scent. I carry peppermint essential oil everywhere I go because my therapist actually told me that, when you start to feel yourself disassociating, you have to bring yourself back into your body. How do you do that? Well, you could spin, your Aura ring. You could smell the peppermint oil, whatever that is for you. And that can help you get through those moments where you feel like you're gonna compromise yourself again. And then keep a resentment journal is her second. And so having something, whether that is like on your phone in your notes app or a notebook, I carry around a little notebook, and document the times where you do compromise yourself and your boundaries. And notice the patterns in that. Is it when you're really tired? Is it when you're really overwhelmed? Is it when you're at your job? Is it with one particular friend? Because sometimes we don't notice those patterns until we can like look at them and see them.
Wow.
And then rehearse, which sounds so silly, but like have those conversations with yourself in the shower or in the mirror while you're getting ready and say, like, how does it feel? Quick little side tangent. We just moved across the country from Chicago to LA, me and my husband. And we have these like antique chairs that have been in my family for like 200 years. And they got just fucked. like in the just
No.
they're fine, but like they're white and cream and antique, and so they're just like water stains and stuff. And yesterday I had people come to the apartment to give me a quote for how much it would be to clean them. And then they were like, "Oh, we're going to do it right now. We're going to do it immediately. Like, here's the quote. We're doing it." Where they're like bringing up their stuff. And I was home alone. I was like, oh my God, I'm not comfortable with this. But there were three men in the apartment with me. And,
Ugh.
you know, it was this moment of being like, I wish I would have like, I had no clue that they were going to do that. But
Yeah.
being able, I could, and I knew the only way for me to like get them out was I couldn't look them in the eye while I told them to leave. And so I was like, no, I'm not doing this today. I need you to leave my apartment. And it took like 5 minutes, but we got them out. And I remember they left and I just sat there and was like, I feel like such a fool because I couldn't look them in the eye. But I knew in that situation, in order to communicate the boundary and to get them out of the apartment, I had to do what I had to do, which was keep it in and not like make eye contact, because then I would
Yeah.
have apologized and maybe paid them far too much money to clean these chairs.
Damn. That reminds me of an episode of Bethany Ever After where her nanny like takes their kid to get baptized, and Bethany and Jason don't realize that it's like a baptism at a church that's not theirs, and they're like having a panic attack about their baby being like paraded around this church, and they're like, "Wait, what?" Not I don't know how my brain works this way, but yeah, boundaries. And yeah, you have to do what you have to do. I think that's such a good point, because I think it's so easy to like get down on ourselves for being like, well, I should have done it this way, or I wish I could show up this way in this situation. And I think it's why so many people will like come up with the thing they wish they should have said in an argument like 5 days later when they're calmer,
Yeah.
But I think it's like, yeah, you still communicated your needs, you still got the outcome you wanted. So like, fuck it. How you do it is how you do it.
Right. And you'll get better at it the more you do it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing where like for me, I'm much better in social situations. I'm much better in like professional situations. But then sometimes you put me in the room with a doctor or like somebody, complete strangers like yesterday, and that's where I still have a lot of growth to do. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, I don't want these random strangers to think I'm an asshole by
Right.
telling them to leave, but now I'm about to pay money I shouldn't be paying.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that where like we all, and that's why I think like having the pattern journal is super helpful, because you really start to figure out, oh, I feel really shitty. What
Hmm.
was happening? What was the circumstance? Where was I? Who was I with? What is the common denominator? And then you can kind of start to find your way out of it.
Damn, I'm just realizing as we're having this conversation that one of my patterns is like if I think someone is quote like cooler than me or like more successful than me, I'm like, yeah, totally. Yeah, to like anything they ask, which is it's very like seventh grade. Like the popular girl wants me to give her my top, so I'll give her my top. You know what I mean?
So I'll
Even though
give
it's
it to
my
her in the
favorite top.
bathroom. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll switch. It's fine. Like
You can have it. Yeah.
yeah, wow. Damn. Okay. Resentment journal on it. Can't
Yep.
wait. Wow, that was really helpful. We fucking love Brene Brown.
Yeah, we do. We really do.
Have you ever seen the movie Wine Country on Netflix? It's like not that
Um,
good.
I think I might have seen like 15 minutes of
It has
it.
like Maya Rudolph and Rachel Dratch. It's like a bunch of
Yeah,
funny
okay. I
women
haven't I never finished it. I think
because
I
it's not very
started.
good.
Yeah.
But there's a scene where, because they're all like women of a certain age in Napa, and they're at dinner and they're like, oh my God, that's Brene Brown. And they all like freak out over seeing Brene Brown in the wild. And I'm like, well, young people like her too.
Yeah, I would freak out if I saw her walking down the street. You kidding?
I would start crying. Have you seen her video about sympathy versus empathy? And there's like a cartoon that accompanies it.
No.
Oh my God. I'm going to put it in the show notes for anyone who wants to
Please
watch
do.
it, but I'll send it to you too. It's so good. That's my Brene Brown video that I just showed
Okay.
everyone like a few years ago. I was like, you need to see this. You need to understand.
Let it seep in.
I
Yeah,
worship at the altar of Brene.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Me too. I'll see you
Listen,
there.
I would rather worship at the altar of Brene than like respectfully like Gary Vee or like Mel Robbins. Like I don't, like it's like I think
Mhm.
we chose the right fighter in my opinion.
We did. We absolutely did.
You know.
Like our fighter will win in the
She's
ring.
she's
She
mommy,
will.
and I just want to like
Oh yeah.
cry into her bosom consensually. I just want to be like,
That sounds ideal.
Brene, can I cry into your bosom? And ideally she'd be like, for sure. And then she would
For
just
sure.
like
Go for it.
hold
Just bring
me.
us in.
Yeah, bring us in, give us a nice cry. And then she wouldn't
Maybe
care
a
if we,
tea.
yeah, a tea and a cry with Brene. Ah, a girl can
Ugh.
dream.
I feel like that would fix me,
I
honestly.
think it would fix everything. It would fix the world. We need like, you know how like you can go to the mall and like meet Santa and like sit on his lap, which like I feel like it's only a matter of time until that's abolished because it is kind of
Yeah,
weird when you think about it.
yeah.
But if you could pay to like wait in a line and cry with Brene, like that, I do think that would be healing for our
I would
nation.
camp out for that.
So would
That would
I.
be absolutely.
Same.
Wow. What an awesome idea.
Wow. Yeah, business ideas in real time. What can we expect from your workshops? Like, how could we participate in one? Like, what? Tell me what's next with those.
Yeah. Um, so I do a lot of, I've just recently started to expand into doing workshops that aren't specifically artist centered.
Cool.
So over the past few years, a lot of my work has been done with actors and directors and filmmakers and just anybody who wants to learn what does it mean to be a consent forward artist and how do you do this and what is the general lingo. So those are things that I do. So if people are specifically wanting a workshop to know how to show up better for themselves in the work that they do, that's an option. And then I teach those. I just taught one at Acting Studio Chicago. So
Oh,
if people are in
cool.
Chicago, yeah, it was awesome. It was like last week. And so if people want like an in-person hands-on experience that's artist focused, something like that is great. I do pop-up ones sometimes too.
Cool.
And then I'm like currently in the process, actually, like I haven't posted anything about it yet, so this is new, but
Ooh.
yeah, it's exciting. I'm going to go live soon with some virtual sessions for people who just want to work more on like boundaries in general and maybe talk about what that work looks like with where they're currently at and just learn some of the background information about how connected we are somatically, our body to our mind and how that shows up and what fawning looks like. So you can always expect tools, like very documentable tools,
Cool.
a trauma informed approach, and then zero pressure to perform boundaries perfectly because you're never going to be perfect at it. But we do a lot of somatic work, some silly exercises, some games, which, you know, you might think, oh, this is so funny. Why are we doing it? And then it'll hit you and you'll understand.
Oh, I look forward to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I
it's
also
fun.
feel like it would be really fun to like do you ever do like corporate events or do you have companies like hire you for yeah, like
I so that's also something I'm working on
hell
doing. So
yeah.
I've done it for again, I've done it for like theaters
Mm-hmm.
and like entertainment
Mm-hmm.
organizations. And so that's been really great. But part of this next portion of my career is going to be transitioning out of specifically just like the arts and entertainment industries into more general corporate settings and people who do other things.
I love that. What a gift. Because,
Yeah.
God, I used to work for a marketing agency and, like, you know, there's so many corporate millennials up in here. And, like, it is really hard to advocate for yourself because, like you were saying earlier, the culture of corporate America is very much like fawning and people pleasing and
Oh, it's what it's based on.
acting
That's the
like you're
whole
a robot.
hierarchy.
Yeah. And then if you have a feeling, people are like, whoa, that's a little much for the workplace. You're
Little much for the
unprofessional.
workplace. Or they do the opposite where they'll then put you in a, you know, a group setting to like there I think there are some companies who try and then it's also not, it's almost worse. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
we're like, okay, now we're having like a group sit down where we talk about our feelings. And maybe
Uh,
that's also not how we approach boundary setting in the workplace because you still can't. And now you
totally.
feel more guilty about it. But you're 100% right.
Also, I feel like so many offices now are like open floor plans and like everything is like glass. And it's like, bitch, if I want to cry for a second, I need a safe space that's not like a bathroom stall.
I hate an open floor plan. I worked in
Nightmare.
marketing in Chicago at a theater for a few years, and I loved the people I worked with. Thank God, because I
Yeah.
did cry in front of them.
Yeah.
But like an open floor plan sucks because what if I need a second?
Just a
Like you
second.
can't have it. You can't have it.
I used to have a coworker who like respectfully never brought headphones to work and would be on like a full volume meeting like in the middle of the room. And I was like, I don't really want to listen to this meeting that I'm not involved in.
And what if I have another one? Yeah,
And what if
it's
I
just
have a meeting? For the love of
then
Pete.
we're all just like raw dogging these meetings.
Raw
So
dogging these meetings. We need to, okay, no more sitting on Santa's lap. I'm just kidding. I feel like that's a hot take. I'm not trying to steal anyone's Christmas magic, okay? I just think there should be conversations around like, do you want to sit on Santa's lap? Do you want to hug Santa?
Do you
do
want
not
to
have
do
to.
this?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
Bring it full circle. So we got to have nuanced conversations around boundaries with Santa, and we have to abolish open floor plans. It's enough.
I completely agree.
And it's
Couldn't
all
agree
in
more.
the name of boundary making.
Absolutely.
Sydney, thank you so much for being here. This was truly such a treat.
Yeah, thank you.
What an honor. Will you please just tell my listeners where they can find you, plug all your things, and everyone will be in the show notes for you as well.
Yeah, so I'm very active on Instagram, and I post everything I do there. So that is Sydney René Cox. That's it, just my name.
Hell yeah.
And if you are interested in following the writing, I do publish frequently on the Every Girl Media Group. They're an online platform. And I have my personal blog called Reality Check, which is paid partially now, but there is still like a free newsletter. So you could do both.
Get your bag, queen. I love
it.
Hey. Thank you so much for being here. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. If you love the show, leave it a rating and a review. Share this episode with a friend who you think could use it. Let's spread this boundary love, and we'll see y'all soon. Bye.